The arena went dead quiet after the human asked, "Should I return it alive or shredded? HFY best." Kale stepped into the arena, feeling the vibrations under his boots. The ground itself seemed alive, humming with energy from the massive audience above. The arena was unlike anything he had seen before, a circular structure that stretched as far as the eye could see, with platforms, pits, and barriers designed for every type of combat imaginable. Lights glimmered across the surface, casting long shadows that made the place feel alive. Kale's eyes scanned the crowd. Thousands of beings from countless worlds were watching him. Some stared with curiosity, others with disdain, and many simply expected him to fail. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and the general opinion was that they were weak, primitive, and naive. Kale had heard the whispers long before stepping here. "The human won't last 10 minutes," said a reptilian creature with jagged scales and glowing eyes. "It's fragile, a soft meatball," a floating telepathic being added, its mind radiating mockery. Kale didn't respond. He never did. Words had little weight in places like this. Actions mattered more. Ahead of him, the arena master emerged, towering over the competitors. Thrin, a hulking alien with metallic armor fused to his body, bellowed in a voice that made the walls shake. "Welcome, contenders. Today, you face a challenge unlike any other. Only the strongest, the smartest, and the most cunning will survive. Today, you hunt the Vorak." Unlike the others, he didn't rely on raw strength. He relied on strategy, observation, and an understanding of creatures. He had studied alien behavior, battle patterns, and survival instincts for years. He knew that instinct alone would not win this battle, thought would. The gates to the arena opened, revealing the hunting ground. It was vast, a mix of jagged rocks, dense forests, and deep water channels. The Vorak's scent was strong even from here, a mix of ozone, iron, and something sharp, something alive. Kale moved forward slowly, his senses sharp, his eyes catching every movement, every shadow. Other competitors rushed forward, eager to claim victory, to display power and dominance. Kale remained patient, knowing that the first mistake could cost not just the fight, but his life. The arena was designed to test more than muscle. Hidden pits, shifting walls, and automated traps ensured that even the strongest competitor could fall if they were careless. Kale used these hazards to his advantage, observing the patterns, noting which areas the Vorak might use for cover or ambush. His heart beat steadily. Fear had no place here. Confidence, not arrogance, guided his movements. Hours passed as he followed subtle tracks, broken branches, displaced stones, faint footprints in the soft soil. He noticed how the Vorak avoided certain areas, moved in patterns that suggested intelligence rather than instinct. Kale smiled inwardly. Most competitors would charge blindly, thinking raw power would overwhelm the creature. But Kale understood something deeper. The Vorak was aware, calculating, cautious. Respect for a creature's intelligence was a weapon few possessed. When he finally came upon the Vorak, Kale froze for a moment. It was larger than he had imagined, a muscular form covered in overlapping armor-like scales that reflected the arena lights. Its eyes glowed with an eerie amber, intelligent and alert. It studied Kale as much as he studied it. There was no fear in its gaze, only curiosity and caution. The creature's tail lashed behind it, sending clouds of dust into the air, and Kale noted its movement, its breathing, the subtle shifts in its posture. Competitors approached, swords, claws, and energy weapons ready. They charged recklessly, expecting to subdue the creature with sheer force. The Vorak reacted instantly, moving with terrifying speed and precision. Within moments, the first wave of attackers lay defeated, thrown aside like rag dolls. Kale didn't move. He watched. Every strike, every dodge, every reaction of the Vorak added to his understanding. He could see the pattern forming, a rhythm, a set of behaviors he could predict and use. Kale waited until the arena's chaos reached a peak. Screams echoed, creatures fell, and the crowd roared with excitement. And then, when the moment was right, Kale moved. Not with a roar or a charge, but with calm, deliberate steps. He approached the Vorak, making sure not to trigger its defensive reflexes. The creature's eyes followed him, unblinking, intelligent. Kale extended his hands, not in aggression, but in observation. He circled the creature slowly, studying the lines of its body, the angles of its movements, the tension in its muscles. Finally, he reached a point where the Vorak could not move without risk. Kale did not attack. He stood there, still as a statue, breathing slowly, waiting. The crowd grew restless. They had expected bloodshed, a spectacle of destruction, and instead they saw calm. Whispers ran through the arena. Is the human insane? It's afraid. Look at it, it's doing nothing. Kale ignored them. He had a plan, and patience was part of it. The Vorak shifted slightly, testing him. Kale noted every twitch, every glance, every adjustment. He understood the creature's thought process in that moment, not fully but enough. Strength alone would not win this battle. Neither would speed. What would win was understanding, respect, and timing. And Kale had all three. As the sun above the arena shifted, casting long shadows across the hunting ground, Kale made his move, not an attack but a control. Using careful pressure points and gentle nudges, he guided the Vorak toward a corner of the arena where escape was impossible. The creature resisted, testing him, but Kale adjusted, never forcing, never harming. His approach was precise, calculated, and above all, patient. When he finally had the Vorak contained, Kale stepped back, letting the creature breathe. The audience erupted with shock. No human had ever managed such a feat. Other competitors looked on in disbelief. Even Thrin's jaw seemed to tighten beneath his armor. The arena went quiet, tension thick as a storm cloud. Everyone expected Kale to strike, to finish the battle with violence. But he didn't. He knelt beside the Vorak, examining it closely, his hands moving over its scaled armor, noting its injuries, its condition. The creature watched him calmly, no longer aggressive, sensing something different in the human. Kale smiled softly, a rare gesture in the midst of chaos. He whispered to himself, almost inaudibly, "Every creature has a choice, and so do I." Kale stood slowly, straightening his back. His gaze swept the arena, meeting eyes of competitors and spectators alike. And then he spoke, voice calm, carrying across the vast space. "Should I return it alive or shredded?" Thrin's massive frame shifted, a low growl rumbling in his chest. The arena, normally a place of violence and spectacle, was dead quiet. The question, simple and human, carried power that no blade or weapon could match. Kale's choice was not weakness. It was strength of a different kind. The strength to see life as more than a challenge to be conquered, to act with intelligence and strategy rather than mere aggression. In that quiet moment, the galaxy witnessed something rare. A human not defined by fear or bloodlust, but by thought, patience, and understanding. And as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the arena, Kale and the Vorak stood together, the human calm and measured, the creature aware and intelligent, both ready for the challenges yet to come. The arena had expected chaos, but instead it found something far more remarkable, the quiet power of humanity. The arena held its breath. Thousands of eyes were fixed on Kale and the Vorak, and even the other competitors had stopped moving, unsure how to respond. Kale's calm presence in the face of what everyone expected to be bloodshed created tension, unlike any the arena had ever known. The creature, sensing no immediate threat from Kale, stayed still, its amber eyes studying him as if it too were trying to understand the human. Whispers spread through the stands. "Why hasn't it attacked?" one spectator asked. "Does it lack courage?" another replied. "No," a third voice said. "It's something else, something we don't understand." Even among the competitors, uncertainty spread. Aliens trained for years to hunt and fight in the arena, and yet this human had approached the apex predator in a way no one had ever considered. Thrin, the arena master, stepped forward, his massive frame radiating authority. "Kale," he rumbled, "you are in my arena. You do not question the rules. Finish the hunt, destroy the Vorak." His voice shook the ground, and a few spectators flinched. But Kale did not flinch. He looked at Thryn calmly with a clarity that unsettled even the massive alien. "I do not see the need to destroy it," Kale said, his voice carrying across the arena, calm and firm. "It is alive, it is strong, and it is intelligent. I have studied it. I know its power. I also know that killing it now tells me nothing new. Respect and understanding will do far more than destruction." While the others relied on speed, brute force, and intimidation, Kale relied on observation, strategy, and intellect. The Vorak, sensing no aggression, lowered its posture slightly. It allowed Kale to approach even closer. The human crouched near the creature, careful not to startle it. He ran his fingers over the scales along its back, feeling the texture, the tension in its muscles, the small injuries from its capture. He could see the pattern in its breathing, the rhythm of its heartbeat, and the intelligence in its eyes. He understood that the Vorak was not a simple animal. It was a sentient creature, capable of reasoning, capable of choice. Some competitors, frustrated by Kale's apparent inaction, started whispering among themselves. "It's wasting time," said a small insectoid with many legs. "By the time it decides to act, we will be done with the hunt." But Kale had already calculated the future several steps ahead. Patience was his weapon, and it was a weapon no one else could wield as effectively. Kale stood, letting the Vorak step back slightly, giving it space. "You will not attack me if I do not attack you," he said quietly, almost a statement to himself. He turned his gaze to the other competitors. "This is not a test of violence alone. It is a test of intelligence, strategy, and awareness. Those who understand this will succeed. Those who do not will fail." Kreth charged toward the Vorak, swinging massive axes with brute force. The creature reacted instinctively, dodging and countering, but Kale was ready. Using precise timing, he stepped into the path of Kreth's swing, guiding him toward a pit that opened suddenly in the arena floor. The warlord toppled, struggling to regain balance, and Kale used the moment to maneuver the Vorak safely to the side. The audience gasped. Humans did not merely fight. Humans orchestrated events like conductors leading a symphony. The Vorak began to follow Kale's subtle cues. Each time the creature moved, it mirrored Kale's calm strategy. They became partners in movement, not master and slave, but allies through understanding. Kale whispered instructions using gestures and pressure, and the creature complied, aware of his intelligence and purpose. It was a dance of patience, respect, and careful calculation that no other competitor could comprehend. Meanwhile, the crowd's tension shifted. Spectators leaned forward, their eyes wide. What they expected, a bloody hunt, was replaced with awe. The human's ability to think beyond raw violence was unlike anything the galaxy had witnessed. Some of the alien audience whispered to one another, "The human, it plays a game we cannot see. Its mind is a weapon stronger than any blade." Other competitors attacked and fell, victims of their own recklessness or the traps of the arena. Kale, however, remained unscathed. His patience allowed him to avoid danger while studying the environment, the Vorak, and the competitors. He noted every movement, every decision, and began to understand not only the creature's intelligence, but also the weaknesses and strengths of his opponents. As the sun of the distant star shifted across the sky, Kale saw an opening. Kreth, enraged and desperate, charged again, this time aiming directly at the Vorak. Kale moved swiftly but without haste, positioning himself between the brute and the creature. Instead of fighting directly, he used the terrain. Rocks shifted, platforms tipped, and the environment itself became a trap. Kreth fell into a hidden pit, the force of his fall muffled by the arena's design. The Vorak remained unharmed, watching calmly. Kale's use of strategy had turned the environment itself into a weapon, without the need for violence against the creature he sought to protect. Thryn's massive form shifted, tension radiating from him. "This human, it is dangerous," he growled. The arena master had seen many warriors, many champions, but none like Kale. The human's power was not in brute force, not in intimidation, not in speed, but in control, observation, and intelligence. The human challenged the very rules of the arena without breaking a single one. Kale approached the Vorak again, kneeling beside it. He ran his hands over the creature's back, feeling its breathing slow as it recognized his respect and understanding. "You are strong," he whispered. "You are intelligent. Together, we will survive this arena, not through destruction but through awareness and respect." The creature's eyes blinked slowly, almost acknowledging his words, almost agreeing with his approach. The crowd had grown silent. Competitors looked on, confused and frustrated. No one had seen anything like this. In a place where death and violence were expected, Kale had introduced thought, patience, and strategy as weapons just as powerful. The humans in the audience cheered quietly, proud of what they had witnessed. Kale had demonstrated a quality alien species often ignored, the ability to combine intellect with empathy. Hours more passed. Kale and the Vorak moved together through the arena, avoiding hazards, outmaneuvering other competitors, and demonstrating a harmony no one had expected. Every move was calculated, every decision deliberate. The human had turned the hunt into a chess game, each step forward a strategy, each gesture a lesson in observation. Finally, the arena master stepped forward, his massive frame casting a long shadow. "Kale," he said, voice echoing across the silent arena, "you have done something no human or any creature has ever done. You have survived without unnecessary violence. You have outsmarted your opponents and the Vorak remains alive. How? It comes from understanding, from observation, and from the ability to think beyond the rules others follow blindly." And then, as Kale looked around at the defeated competitors, the massive pits, and the audience stunned into silence, he spoke again, his voice calm but carrying across the vast space. Even Thrin's massive form was still, the ground trembling slightly under his weight. The question, simple yet profound, carried power that no weapon or force could match. Kale's patience, intelligence, and calm had created a moment unlike any the arena had ever seen. Violence had been expected. Bloodshed was anticipated. And yet here stood a human, proving that strength came in many forms, and sometimes the greatest power was mercy, strategy, and understanding. For the first time in the arena's history, the crowd, the competitors, and the masters of the game saw humans for what they truly were. Beings capable of turning intelligence into strength, respect into power, and patience into victory. Kale had not only survived, he had changed the rules of the game simply by being human. And as the sun of the distant star dipped lower, casting long shadows over the arena, Kale and the Vorak stood side by side, ready for whatever challenges awaited next. But one thing was clear. This human had already proven that he was unlike any creature the galaxy had ever known. The arena had never been so still. Even the wind seemed to pause as Kale stood, the Vorak by his side. Other competitors watched with disbelief. They had trained for years for battles of strength, for brute force and speed, but here was a human moving through the arena with neither sword nor energy weapon. Yet he commanded attention, controlled the creature, and manipulated the battlefield in ways no one had thought possible. Kreth, the massive alien warlord who had fallen into the pit earlier, shook his head in frustration. "It cannot be real," he muttered to himself. "No human should have this control." He had always believed that raw strength and aggression ruled the arena. Kale had disproved that idea with calm, patience, and a mind that anticipated every action. Kale didn't care about their disbelief. His focus was on survival and strategy. He scanned the arena again, noting the positions of his opponents, the patterns of the traps, and the best possible paths for both himself and the Vorak. Every detail mattered. One small misstep could turn the tide, but Kale had studied for this. His mind worked like a finely tuned machine, calculating probabilities, observing weaknesses, and creating plans that his enemies couldn't even imagine. The Vorak followed Kale's subtle gestures, stepping lightly, observing, responding to pressure points and hand signals. It had become more than an ally, it had become part of his strategy. Other competitors were forced to adjust, wary of the human and the creature moving together. Kale's calm confidence was unshakable. He didn't need to shout or swing a weapon. His presence alone demanded attention. A group of smaller competitors attempted to ambush him from above, dropping onto the rocks with blinding speed. Kale moved predictably in their eyes, yet unpredictably in reality. He guided the Vorak behind a ridge, using its size to block the falling attackers. The creature lashed its tail in a controlled sweep, not to harm, but to unbalance the enemies. They stumbled, tripped over the terrain, and fell into one of the hidden pits designed for larger predators. The audience gasped. No one had seen such precise, calculated movement, using the environment as a weapon while leaving lives mostly unharmed. From above, Thrin observed with a mixture of awe and irritation. This human, it is not like the others. It is dangerous because it does not fight as we expect. It thinks, plans, and controls situations that should be chaotic. It is a predator of a different kind. He had seen thousands of warriors, but none had approached the arena like this. None had treated the creatures with intelligence and respect while still claiming victory. Kale paused for a moment, assessing his next move. The arena's design gave him options. Hidden platforms, automated barriers, shifting walls, all could be used against aggressive competitors. He moved silently, leading the Vorak toward a corridor where the larger, stronger warlord competitors were gathering. He let the Vorak step forward first, the creature's imposing size and strength serving as both shield and distraction. Kreth roared from the pit, climbing out with renewed fury. He waved his massive arms and charged toward Kale, expecting to finally overwhelm the human. Kale waited until the last possible moment, then sidestepped with perfect timing, guiding Kreth toward one of the arena's traps. A collapsing platform dropped beneath the warlord, and he barely managed to catch himself, hanging by his hands. The audience erupted in astonishment. Strategy over strength, Kale said quietly to himself, and it was almost a lesson in philosophy rather than battle. The Vorak growled softly, sensing the calm confidence radiating from the human. It followed every subtle signal, prepared to act only when Kale allowed it. Together they were more than a team. They were a singular unit, blending human intellect and alien might. Other competitors, seeing the warlord neutralized without violence to the creature or Kale himself, began to hesitate. Aggression without thought had failed them, and now they were unsure how to proceed. Kale noticed their hesitation. He could see fear, respect, and confusion in their eyes. His advantage wasn't strength, it was understanding, timing, and awareness. The human mind was his deadliest weapon. Kale guided the Vorak along a winding path of platforms and barriers, avoiding unnecessary confrontation, observing weaknesses in every opponent who remained. He began to set traps, not of death, but of skill and cunning. A creature that relied on speed was guided into a barrier that slowed it. One that relied on strength stumbled over an uneven surface that Kale had prepared with subtle shifts in terrain. Each move taught a lesson. In the arena, intelligence and observation were more valuable than raw power. The crowd, initially expecting carnage, watched in awe. Spectators from countless worlds whispered among themselves, trying to understand the human. "It is not fast nor strong, yet it controls everything," one said. "It sees things we cannot," another added. The humans in the stands cheered quietly, proud and astonished at what one of their own had accomplished. Hours passed. The arena, once chaotic with combat and screams, had become a chessboard. Kale was the master of that board, moving his pieces with precision. Even the Vorak, a creature of immense strength, was under his guidance, acting with subtlety and purpose. Kale avoided unnecessary violence, choosing instead to neutralize threats and manipulate the environment. Every action was measured, deliberate, and effective. Finally, Kale faced the last of the major competitors, a monstrous alien warlord named Zarkal, renowned for his cunning and brutality. Zarkle lunged, swinging a massive weapon, but Kale anticipated the attack, moving aside and guiding Zarkle into a narrow passage. The creature could not move easily, and Kale's planning left the warlord trapped, struggling to find a way forward. The audience watched, stunned into silence once more. Kale did not attack. He simply observed, letting the environment and his knowledge of the creature neutralize Zarkle. After a tense moment, Zarkle ceased struggling, realizing that brute force alone would not win in this scenario. Kale extended a hand toward the warlord, not in threat, but in quiet dominance. The human's presence alone conveyed strength beyond violence. Thryn stepped forward again, his voice resonating through the arena. "Never have I seen such mastery," he said. "Not of strength, not of weapons, but of mind. Humans, perhaps they are far more dangerous than I ever believed." The arena, once a place of expected chaos and brutality, now held a reverent silence. Kale had rewritten the rules, demonstrating that intelligence, patience, and strategic thinking could achieve victory in ways no one had imagined. The Vorak, calm and obedient to Kale's subtle guidance, moved beside him, a living testament to the human's control and understanding. Kale knelt briefly, touching its armored scales gently. "Together," he said softly, "we are stronger than any who rely only on rage and strength." The creature responded with a low, approving rumble, almost as if it understood the human's words. The crowd began to react slowly, first in whispers, then with cheers of astonishment. Humans had long been underestimated, dismissed as fragile and primitive, yet here was a single human demonstrating qualities no other species had mastered. Strength was not just muscle, speed was not just reflexes, and power was not just destruction. Kale's intelligence, patience, and respect for life were forces that commanded awe and fear alike. As the sun of the distant star dipped below the horizon of the arena, casting long shadows over the battlefield, Kale stood tall. Every competitor who remained had learned a lesson they would never forget. The human mind, combined with careful observation and strategic thinking, could dominate in ways raw power never could. Kale raised his gaze to the audience, and for the first time a small smile crossed his face. The humans watching cheered, but it was not just them. Many aliens, even those who had doubted him, now regarded him with respect. Kale had shown that humans were more than fighters. They were thinkers, planners, and strategists capable of outwitting even the strongest of foes. He stepped forward, placing a hand gently on the Vorak's head, guiding it toward the center of the arena. The audience waited, holding its breath. Then Kale spoke, voice calm and carrying across the silent arena. "This creature is strong. It is intelligent. I could destroy it, but what would that prove? Instead, I choose respect, and in that respect I find my victory." Thryn, for the first time, nodded slightly, a hint of admiration in his massive frame. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "humans are not to be underestimated." And as the arena lights dimmed and shadows stretched across the battlefield, Kale whispered once more, a phrase that would echo through the galaxy. "Should I return it alive or shredded?" They were masters of thought, strategy, and respect, a force no one could predict, and a species that would never be dismissed again. The arena was quiet, the kind of silence that feels heavier than a roar. Kale stood at the center, the Vorak by his side, both calm, both unshaken. The crowd, thousands of spectators from countless worlds, watched in disbelief and awe. This human had done what no one expected. He had survived the arena without spilling unnecessary blood, outsmarted the strongest competitors, and earned the respect of every observer simply through intelligence, patience, and strategy. Thryn, the massive arena master, shifted forward, his metallic armor glinting under the lights. He had witnessed countless battles, seen countless champions, yet none had approached combat like this human. Kale had turned the rules of the arena upside down. Brute force had failed, aggression had failed, and yet Kale had succeeded. Thryn's voice, deep and resonant, carried across the arena. "Kale," he said slowly, "you have done what no human or any other being has done before. You have defeated the arena without destroying your opponent, without unnecessary bloodshed. You have shown strength of a different kind. How did you accomplish this? The strongest fighter is not the one who kills the most, but the one who survives with skill and understanding. I respected the Vorak, and in return, it respected me. That is how victory is won. Some were filled with admiration, realizing that humans had qualities no other species valued as highly, traits like empathy, foresight, and intelligence. Kale had not only survived, he had changed the perception of an entire species in one day. Competitors who remained in the arena approached cautiously. They had expected a fight filled with carnage, but instead they found a calm, calculated human who had outwitted them at every turn. Kreth, still recovering from his fall into the pit, shook his massive head in disbelief. "I thought strength ruled this place," he muttered. "I see now I was wrong. This human, it is unlike any of us." "Strength has many forms," he said simply. "You fight with your muscles, I fight with my mind. Each method has its place. Today, mine proved stronger." Spectators whispered again. The creature was alive, uninjured, and clearly intelligent. It had not been slaughtered for the sake of spectacle, yet the human had proven dominance. Thryn studied Kale closely. He had expected a warrior who would fight like all the others, aggressive, violent, loud, and forceful. Instead, he saw a being who used thought as a weapon, patience as armor, and respect as strength. It was unlike anything he had ever witnessed. Slowly, he nodded. "Perhaps humans are not to be underestimated," he said. "Perhaps your kind has more power than we ever imagined." Every step was deliberate, measured, controlled. The defeated competitors watched, some with envy, others with newfound respect. Kale had taught them a lesson they would never forget. Brute force alone does not determine victory. Strategy, intelligence, and empathy are weapons stronger than any blade or weapon. As they reached the exit of the arena, Kale paused. He looked at the Vorak, meeting its amber eyes. "You fought well," he said softly, "and now you will return home." The creature tilted its head slightly as if acknowledging him. Kale extended a hand and the Vorak nudged it gently, a silent gesture of respect and understanding. The audience erupted in applause, a mix of astonishment, admiration, and disbelief. Humans in the stands cheered loudly, proud that one of their own had achieved what many thought impossible. Aliens clapped as well, some slowly, some with awe, recognizing that they had witnessed something extraordinary, a human demonstrating qualities they had long underestimated. Kale spoke again, his voice clear and calm. "Victory is not about who falls first or who strikes hardest. It is about understanding, planning, and respecting life. That is what makes a warrior truly strong. Perhaps we should learn from this." Outside the arena, the sun of the distant star was setting, casting long shadows across the complex. Kale paused for a moment, looking at the horizon. The galaxy was vast, filled with countless species, countless battles, countless challenges. And yet he had made his mark. Not through violence, not through bloodshed, but through intellect, patience, and the quiet power of human understanding. The Vorak nuzzled Kale gently, a gesture of trust. Kale smiled faintly, placing a hand on its armored scales. "Go home," he said softly. The creature turned and disappeared into a transport area leading to its habitat. Kale watched until it was gone, knowing that he had not only survived, but had also shown that life, even of other species, could be preserved without losing strength. As he turned to leave, spectators continued to cheer, though some remained in stunned silence. Whispers spread quickly, carrying beyond the arena walls. Aliens began speaking of humans differently. Humans were no longer seen as fragile or primitive. They were beings capable of thought, strategy, and unexpected strength. Kale had shifted perceptions, and the echoes of his actions would spread throughout the galaxy. Thryn approached Kale one final time, his massive frame casting a long shadow. "You have changed the arena today," he said quietly. "Not just with skill, but with ideas. You have shown us what it means to fight with thought, patience, and respect. Your name will be remembered." That is all that matters. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread of the human who did not fight like the others, who outsmarted every competitor, who tamed the fiercest creature without violence, and who asked a simple question that echoed far and wide. Should I return it alive or shredded? Many were inspired, some intimidated, but all understood one truth. Humans are not to be underestimated. Their intelligence, patience, and strategic thinking could turn the tide in any conflict, shift the balance in the galaxy, and create alliances where once only fear existed. Kale looked back one last time at the arena, now quiet and empty. He had left a mark, not with destruction, but with thought. The arena that had once been a place of chaos and violence now held a story of strategy, patience, and respect. Kale's actions would be remembered for generations as the day humans proved that true strength lies in intellect, courage, and empathy. And as the sun disappeared behind the horizon, Kale walked into the future, calm and confident, knowing that the galaxy had taken notice. Humans were no longer just a species to be observed. They were a force to be reckoned with, a species capable of mastering challenges not through violence alone, but through thought, patience, and understanding. The arena had gone quiet that day, but its silence spoke volumes. Kale had proven that humans could redefine the rules of survival, the definition of strength, and the meaning of victory. And in the galaxy, a new respect for humanity had begun, a respect earned not with weapons but with the quiet power of the mind. Kale's legacy had begun.